Having made reviews of both the update of Symphobia 1 and 2, I naturally wanted to make a review of the update of Symphobia 3, or as it's also called, Lumina. Seriously? This is what we're doing? Who did this? Who told you to do this? Who decided this? Real funny, ha ha! So without the ears this time... Hi there, this is Sam with Second Tier Sound. Really nice to see you here. So let's take a deeper dive into Lumina or Symphobia 3. But what is Lumina, you might ask? Well, it's a part of the series Symphobia created by ProjectSam. And the first installment to Symphobia 1 was a general orchestra, really focusing on a big cinematic sound. Symphobia 2 was kind of the same, but just an upgrade in quality in general. But both those libraries were focusing a lot on the big horror, sci-fi, massive, really cool sound. Symphobia 3 or Lumina has changed directions a little bit. It's much softer now, more ethereal, focusing on magical music, but also some comedy writing, while still maintaining some of that horror elements as Symphobia is so well known for. So this is quite a lengthy video, but we're trying to listen more to Lumina and talking a little bit less. But I've also provided the chapters so you can go to the section that interests you the most. Let's get going. So here it is, the spanking new interface of Lumina by ProjectSam. Let's just start listening to the sounds. You can click anywhere on this picture and you will get into this menu. So let's start with the legatos here because they're really nice. Very expressive, warm sound. Before I show you the other legato sounds, I briefly want to say you they've upgraded the scripting engine so you can now play faster, like this. That was kind of tricky to do in the older Lumina version. They've also added the polyphonic switch so you can now play several notes at the same time. As you heard there's sometimes glitches with this, so I wouldn't try to play too many advanced legato lines at the same time. In fact, my recommendation is that most of the time just play chords and then legato lines, or have them on different channels. It works sometimes, but not always. But I really like that it's there, so now you can have more sort of ensemble feelings. You can have more than just one flute. So this is a really welcome, great addition. So let's take a look at the oboe. Really beautiful sound, very expressive. The vibrato just comes at the right place. Just wanted to show you though that it has an espressivo patch here or key switch. This is here to make sure that your chords are also expressive if you want them. I'll show you what I mean. If I play a chord here, I get that expressive vibrato curve in there. If I play the legato with the polyphonic switch on, I don't get it. Because that sound is not triggered until I've done a key switch in the legato. Then it comes. So I think that's why. Otherwise they sound the same. Let's take a look at the clarinet. Bassoon. Yeah, it's really nice. A very inspiring sound. Trumpet. Now we have 3 recorders, the soprano, alto, and tenor, and these are fantastic. They're so simple and they're very easy to play, but I almost want to say this is one of my favorite recorder VST sounds out on the market still. And let's try the alto. Now you shouldn't do the staccato as I did, it's obviously here and it sounds very nice, but I didn't have the time to do key switch right there. You can obviously map that in if you wanted to. If you hit a bit harder or something like that, you can map it yourself. I talk more about that in the other Symphobia videos. Let's take a look at the tenor as well. Then we have a tin whistle, and this is very playable, and they added also an extra articulation. If you hit the key a little bit harder, you get an extra drill or a different articulation, you could say, like this. Very nice. And they also have a bunch of phrases that it can add some realism. Okay, so lastly we have a soprano. Okay, let's talk briefly about all these legatos. They're actually one of the better things about this library. Now, they are a little bit older, obviously. They're recorded a while ago, even though this is an update and they changed some of the scripting and all that. But the recordings are great. The rooms sound so good, and they work so well with the orchestra. Now, there are a few problems. There are some spikes in some of the legatos, the transitions, and it doesn't always work so well when you play fast, and you hear some phasing issues with the soprano, but this is nitpicking. I really like this. Okay, let's go on with the orchestrations, and these are a bunch of pre-recorded textures, you could say. Now, some people might say, am I ever going to use those because I'm just going to sound like everybody else? But I will show you that I think you can use these quite well. Let's start with the mindfulness here. So you just hit a key on any key because it's in all keys and you get a sound. It's just a nice texture that keeps on going, but you also have other ones if you play a little bit on a different place on your keyboard. And here's another one. And you can also choose if you just want the strings to be playing. Or in this case, winds, piano, harp, and percussion. And you can also change the sample speed, and this is quite effective because it does change the energy quite a bit when you do so. Now, depending on what patch you will choose, they have different sections. So this one only had 2, but let's try another one here. Storyteller, I think is the next one. Yes. And for example, just the winds, piano, harp. We can try it with faster speed. Works quite well, and it does change the energy quite a bit, and it might match your DAW a little bit better. Let's try another one. Let's see, waterfall is nice. here's another one. Very Debussy-esque, impressionistic kind of sound. And then obviously you can choose any of these if you just want to choir, for example. And you can see that you can choose here what sound you want with the mod wheel. And it does change it quite a bit. So with all these options, you have a few different phrases, sometimes in major, sometimes in minor or seventh or diminished. And the speed, you have quite a lot of options. And I would say to start the music with this can be very inspiring. Maybe you want to try to do something similar yourself, or you can bake them into your orchestra and get a bigger, fatter sound. So let's take a look at string section. And here I wanted to specifically talk about the strings concertino. And it's fantastic. It has no tricks up in its sleeve, no cool articulations, no legato, no nothing. It's as bare bones as you can think, but the sound. There's also this harp that I really want to mention because it's not the most deeply sampled, but I really like it. And it adds the perfect touch, these kind of instruments. Let me show you. First, we have the plucks. And that works quite well. But what I actually really like are these chords because they just make my life a lot easier. When you need just a simple chord, you have it here. Or in different positions. And you can tie them together like this. So you get a little bit bigger sort of glissando there. And it's just perfect with this kind of music. You often need these harp chords and then the strings continue or something like that. And you can go down, obviously. And minor up. It sounds lovely. It really does, because it's well performed. And then you could always change the speed a little bit if you wanted to match better to your DAW. Just want to mention that the strings trio have these phrases that are pre-recorded. They're difficult to use because when you lift the key, the sample dies and there's no great round robin. So it's difficult to use and they're quite monotonous, even though they sound great. But I find that these textures here are better to use. They're actually the best part here. But we also have the brass trio and we have Woodwinds trio. And these are all pre-recorded samples that can maybe aid you a little bit and do some kind of texture in the back of your orchestra to get some life. I do want to say though, on the Woodwinds quartet here is a pretty nice addition. It's similar to the one in Symphobia 1, just a little bit different sound. But what's great is that you can choose what instruments you want to participate in this ensemble, which is a really good addition. And it's always good to have an ensemble for winds because it's very difficult to do that sound well with a bunch of different solo instruments. You sort of hear that tuning there, and also in staccato, obviously. Okay, so then we have percussion, and this is a little bit more percussion than in the other Symphobia libraries. So let's check out the Gran Casa. And then we have a few sub-hits that are quite subtle, but they really add that oomph to the bottom. And then we have the suspended cymbals. And what's really nice here is that they have different ways of timing this with your DAW. So you can set it to a beat, for example. and matches your DAW perfectly. I love that. It's so much easier. And then this one, it's great. I think they added that to the Pandora and also the Runs library. So I'm going to show you what I mean. If I click here on my DAW, you will hear the click. 1, 2, 3. It will always land on the 1. See, wherever I hit the key, it will always land on the 1. And this makes timing a lot more fun. Then it has a nice bell tree. But also the option of doing it yourself. And then more bells, obviously, wind chimes. For more magic, then a triangle. And then the biggest head scratcher of this library, the castanets. And the second key has this sound. If there is any difference between this, I don't know, but maybe I've lived in Spain for too many years, but I need to be able to play the castanets, not just have a sampled sound. I mean, why can't they just have a few keys with different castanet sounds so I can do my own rhythm? That would be extremely important. So again, I don't know if this is a mistake, because not good. Not good at all. Then we have flexotone, and this is fun. And then we have a slide whistle. And so on. And then bell tower, which was quite a surprise. It's very well sampled. All the way up to... So a lot of bells. So if you want to sound like a great church, now you can. And you have doubled as well. And then Lumina bells. All right, that's it for the percussion. Let's check out the choir. Also really good section here. We have two choirs. They sound fairly similar, but the Elven choir is only women. Let's check out the Lumina first. And the oo is a little bit subtler, and if you want a bigger sound, you have the ah sound. It's just these two letters, but it works so great for this kind of music that Lumina aims itself towards. And it also has a nice automatic crescendo, diminuendo. And depending on where you have the mod wheel, you have different vowels. So you can have an for example. And also the oo sound in the middle. And what's also great is that you can choose what singers you want to be part of this. I really like that. So you can change the textures. And then nice glissando effect here. And if you add a few at the same time, it becomes more fun actually. And some vibrato textures. Great for that sort of more horrific writing. And then we have the Elven choir. It's a little bit more ethereal sound. And I also find it's a little bit easier to play smoother passages. And a few textures. Really nice as a background in your orchestra, adds a great flavor. And you can do it with the built-in crescendo diminuendo curve as well. And then we have the mixed ensemble, a very important part of this whole library because it adds so much texture to your whole library. You can sketch almost with just these tools here. And some of these sections here have become their own libraries because they're so popular. Let's try the fantasy ensemble first. And then runs. Now, these are not complete runs, not octave runs like that, but more comedic fantasy runs. And it does have an adaptive sync, but I wouldn't really stray off the 8th note really, because it's a quick one, and if you do it too slow, it doesn't sound good. Nice tremolo. And, you know, the typical trills here. Swirls. And great chords. Really nice. And cliffhangers, quite fun. And a few textures and effects. And then let's go to cartoon ensemble. I don't write a lot of this music, but I can understand that people do use this library a lot. What I would do here, just to show you quickly, there's a marcato here, which is the same thing, just longer. I would make these together in one patch. And I would do that by going to map, make sure staccato is selected. Then I would make sure that if I go over a certain velocity level, let's say about 100, you won't hear it. So if I hit really hard, I hear nothing because the gate is stopping me from doing so. So let's go to the marcato and do the same thing down here. So it won't be heard until I hit about 100 there, more or less. Yeah, more or less. So if I hit soft, nothing. If I hit hard, there it is. So now I go back to performance and I make sure I select both of these, and now I can do performance like this. That's a lot easier. These libraries are really well made for this stuff. So you can create these patches yourself that lend themselves perfectly for speed writing. And you can do that down here by creating the multis as well, which I'll talk about in a while. Now, let's try the chords. These are also really nice. And arco. And you can hear already how this is cartoon music, and they have a few phrases recorded for you as well. And tonal ones. And major and minor phrases. All these variations are on the keyboard. Let's do the tutti orchestra, which is also extremely useful. Quite nice dynamic layer. And the tremolo is the same. You just have tremolos in the string, so it adds a little bit more wildness. And I'm doing the swells myself, but there's a built-in one there, obviously. Which gives you that really nice natural ending. I really wish that ProjectSam had made a time stretch tool here so I can decide how fast I wanted this to play so I can match my DAW better. And then we have chords, and these are just fantastic to fill out your orchestra a little bit more. I mean, that's all you need sometimes. Clusters. Yeah, and so on. And then they have risers. Yeah, I like it that it has the choir in there and a few textures. The piano harp and vibes, first, I didn't really understand how to use this one. I mean, is it supposed to be sort of a piano pad? I mean, you could, but I find it more interesting to use sort of for magical stuff. Or you can almost hit any keys and you get interesting stuff. I wish though that you could separate so I can choose just the piano or just the harp or just the vibes right here. Then we have phrases. And some beautiful textures. And these are all just great for magic. You just sprinkle it on top like an extra ingredient on your orchestra and it's insta magic. So actually, there's one thing I forgot to show here, and that is that there is one instrument I didn't find in any of these sections. So you have to go to all instruments and then you go down here and Celeste, there it is. So we were in the mixed ensemble, so let's take a look at one of my favorites here, bassoon, piano, and harp. So there at the end, I added that swell with the mod wheel, so it has a few layers there, and it's just perfect for that brooding atmosphere. Okay, so let's go on with the next chapter, the sound design, and how useful it is to bake into your orchestra and not just go with the acoustic sound, but actually add some of these. The next sound that's quite fun is, let's see, Beats from the Lake. Okay, let's see. Cloud guitar, I think is the next one I want to show you. Something I forgot to mention is that the module here has just a sweep filter, you could say, and that's quite effective. Listen. Then we go with this one. Quite a lot of these sounds are quite complex and they are different sounds on different keys and they go on for quite a bit. So there's quite a lot you can do. It's not just one sound. It's actually, you can really design it yourself a little bit. Let's try this one, C in the code. Next one here, Swamp Matrix. Bells and effects. Just a bunch of great and fun sound design, out of context kit, and it's just a bunch of hits with interesting creative effects. So every key is different. Then we have something I really like. It's called tongue drum. So first of all, you have a bunch of sounds here on the right side of the keyboard. Then on the left side, you have loops that are really pretty and then play at the same time. And then one more thing, the bass synth here, you can hardly hear it unless you have nice headphones on, but it's perfect to add bottom that makes things vibrate. In this next section, I'm not going to talk at all, I promise. We're just going to listen to some of the multi-patches of the Lumina library. And this is where this library really shines. But I also encourage you to create your own multi-patches. It's really easy and it will definitely speed up your sketching a lot. So let's talk about the library. What do I think about it? Well, it's quite clear that each installment of the Symphobia series has increased the quality quite a bit, and Lumina 3 sounds amazing. It's just really cohesive, all the instrument blends really well together. I rarely tweak the EQ or the reverb. I really like the sound of this library. And the legato samples are incredibly inspiring. I don't know if you can record emotions, but I feel that it really is an inspiring tool that I often use in a bigger orchestra. But let's talk a little bit about the quality of the samples. The recordings are excellent, but if you compare it to a much newer library today, there's obviously quite a big difference in all the dynamic layers, the articulations, round robins, and all that you get today. But I still want to mention that a newer library, you can probably get a better result today, but you also have to tweak it much more. And you have to consider, do you want to spend hours on doing that tweaking? And some people do. Or do you want to create a quick, decent result? And I'm sometimes gearing a little bit more towards the Symphobia approach. Because if I have an idea that I quickly want to get out, I don't want to just tweak it and kill my creativity. And I found that the Symphobia libraries are really, really great for this. Get an idea out quickly, and it's very inspiring and quite often good enough for end production. Now, what don't I like about this library? Well, it is geared towards a very specific genre, so it's not as all-round as the previous Symphobia libraries were. This is more magic, ethereal, fantasy, all that kind of stuff, comedy. And also, the legatos have its problems. The new scripting tool has improved quite a bit, but you can hear some spikes. It doesn't lend itself to all kind of passages when you play. Some of the samples in general cut off in a weird way, so they are difficult to use unless you have to do a lot of smoothing in the post-production, so to speak. But otherwise than that, everything sounds so good that if you need a sample library for this kind of music, it's hard to get anything wrong with this. It's actually one of the best instruments still for that kind of music. So it's a great recommend if you like what you hear and if you need a library for this kind of music. Anyway, that's it for this review. If you like what you see and hear, then please support me by hitting that like button and subscribe if you want more videos like this one. Also share these videos. You let other people know what I have to say. Maybe they'll benefit what I have to say, who knows. You can also go the extra mile if you want to and become a patron and support me so I can create even more videos like this one. Until then, I hope you have a great holiday. I hope you create lots of music. Take care.